Welcome back to Financial Friday. Today we're going to talk about the effect of the non-farm payroll, and then later in the video I'm going to cover off some of our expenses to do with our house build in the Philippines as we prepare to go back. Guys, if you find this content helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment. That would be great. So this week was fairly flat, virtually no action, and this is not uncommon for August. But it was also in advance of the release of the non-farm payroll in the United States. Interestingly, before the release, about 10, maybe 12 hours before, there were two major movements in the peso against the US dollar. Now, after the non-farm payroll opened, it gathered all that back up. But the basic result is that we've basically had a flat week. The US dollar is like slightly from last week. The euro is basically flat. And all other currencies are pretty much flat to where they were last week. In other words, it's summertime. And not much action really happens. Now, the non-farm payroll is a major release in the United States and can cause quite a bit of volatility. And there was a bit of movement in the Euro-US yesterday, or this morning, with that release. And also, you find that when the euro and the Great British Pound are open prior to the non-farm payroll, there can be some movement in the market there in anticipation of the numbers, which can cause interesting trading if you're a day trader. The other cautionary note, if you do decide to take up any form of day trading, is watch out for the weekend, because news over the weekend can pull drastically against you. When we were trading, we never held positions over the weekend. And so a cautionary note on that. But from our standpoint as expats, this is all about budget. And so we're still in a very positive position now for our budgets. If we want to go to the Philippines, now is the time to send some good money. The euro is down a titch, but I don't see that as a reason why you wouldn't go. The euro is going to find some recovery when the fall starts. I feel there's a lot of indicators to show that it will. But I hate to say it, but we are going into the recession that was expected a few years ago, but got interrupted by a major event. And this is why we all need to pay attention to where things can go and always do go, which ultimately there is always going to be a period of downtime. And 3 weeks ago, I cautioned everybody against hedging with the US dollar maybe hitting 59 or 60, which would have been 25-year highs. But it was bouncing very hard against that 25-year high. And personally, I would stay away from it. I want to see all indications that it's going to go down, and then I would start trading that currency. But again, we're in this position of wanting to set our budgets. And so we've set the thresholds on the ticker there. You can see where I set the thresholds. They're the number before the currency. And then there's today's currency rate, or this weekend's rate, which is important because what you want to do is you've now got roughly 36 hours to send your money before the Japanese-Australian markets open up, which those are the two markets that can cause these sudden quick rebounds from major news on the weekend, okay? Not very often, but it does happen, so be aware of that when you're going to send money. But because we're trying to set these thresholds, because we're trying to define where our budgets are, I feel it's important to realize that we are in Australia is up, New Zealand is up, Canada is up, the euro is flat. It's down a little bit, but not so much that you would be concerned. and what's the last one? They're all up except the euro. Now's the time to bulk send your money. Don't start hedging on where it could be. Okay. Lynn and I got extremely lucky yesterday. We decided to send a little bit of money, and the currency rate was up. And then this news came out in the Philippines, boom, boom, and we beat the rate. So we got extremely lucky on that one, because today is Friday, and guess what? The rate is down by 50 centavos. Doesn't seem like a lot, but for us, it added up to about 180 pesos. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 180 pesos is, you know, it's your broccoli for that week, right? So again, some of these small numbers and these big numbers, they don't seem to feel like a lot, but when you're talking in terms of pesos, you have to be aware of where you're at. So let's say 120 pesos is $3. Doesn't sound like a lot in Canada. That's 2 chocolate bars or 3 chocolate bars, you know, that type of thing. But in the Philippines, as far as your veg goes and stuff, it can be, you know, a few days of food. So I still feel now is the time to go. And the reason I say that is if you've got the funds to go, that means you've got enough funds to also furnish. And if you've got enough funds to furnish, or you've got enough money for a hotel for 3-4 months, then you've got enough money to furnish. So you see these circles. It's important to set your budgets. I know these numbers sound weird, but I've gone through what John's budget is last week, 40,000 pesos, and he's barely eking by, guys. He's comfortable with his lifestyle, but they don't go out, right? So I still feel that that baseline amount of money is a minimum of 60,000 pesos. That's where I feel it is. So that's my cautionary note when you see some vloggers saying, is $1,000 enough to live in the Philippines? Location, location, location. Okay, lifestyle, lifestyle, lifestyle also is a major part of what you want out of this. So 60,000 pesos is not $1,000 US. Right now, it's only 5,500, so you're 500 pesos short. Again, doesn't sound like a lot, but it is in the terms of the Philippines. So be careful, be cautious. At the same time, set your budget, set your savings levels, maintain your savings levels, because there will be downturns. Guaranteed, 100%, you're going to see downturns. And so all this euphoria that you're feeling right now about everything's in my positive fashion, a couple of years from now, 6 months from now, it could be totally against you. If this recession kicks in, the way some of these economists are talking about, it could be a couple of years. Okay? And even if it's only a 6-month recession, the ripple effect off of that is going to be larger. I just hit Lynn's money tree. It's knocking 50 peso notes off of it, by the way. Anyway, so that's kind of enough of a ramble. Be careful about the non-farm payroll. If you do decide that you're going to move money, make sure that the U.S. market is closed on the first Friday of every month. Make sure the market is closed. Check what your rate is, and then send money in that 36 hours. Off to the races you go. Okay, there we go, guys. Now I'm going to talk about costs of building in the Philippines. I'm going to add that to Financial Friday. A very quick update on our house build. As you heard earlier in the video, I talked about the fact that we got lucky yesterday on getting 4330. It wasn't because it was 4330 that we sent extra money. It was more because we were looking at our budgets. We knew that the AAC block, which is an aerated concrete, we're using that and not hollow block, because it turns out to be about 20% cheaper than doing hollow block. But the reason we sent the money was we're hedging against a little bit of inflation that's, we already know the inflation numbers, we've already built in the inflation numbers. However, we're anticipating more. And so we're going to hedge a little bit because our 1 million peso budget to build the house, I still don't want to compromise on the build. I still want to build what I want to build. And the AAC block is going to save us money. It's also a cooler product versus concrete on your walls. So not as much solar migration into the house. And it's a faster product to install. And we found that this is important to us, this build. It's important. Uli mentioned that, you know, this is his first house build. And this isn't my first house build, but it's my first tropical house build, and it's my first concrete house build. I've only done wood frame construction. So we've decided to hedge, there's that word, but in a positive way. The rates are still well above the Canadian threshold of 40. We want 1 million pesos there. We're going to have a little bit more buffer on that 1 million pesos. Just so I can update you, 1 million pesos for Canadians is about $25,000. In the US, that's about $20,000. But the importance to us here is to be able to build that house and guest house so that family can visit, even if they're only coming from Cebu to visit, or whether they're coming from Canada to visit, or John coming up from Angeles or down from Angeles, whichever way you want to look at it, to spend a weekend or a week with us. So it's important for us to have the guest house. It was always the long-term plan to have that garage as a guest house. But the reason we needed to send that little extra money was we've already built in extra budget for our day-to-day living. We've taken that from 60 to 70,000. We will assess next year as to whether it stays at 70 or comes back to 60 because it's cutting into my Canadian pension. And remember, I'm self-funding my pension right now. So the 40 cents on the dollar that it was costing me, I can keep 60 in Canada, 60 cents on the dollar, and that keeps me retired in Canada. But the house build is important to me. It's not necessarily the last kick at the can, but it's important. Now, the other reason for a little bit of hedging here too is on government costs, etc., of potentially getting this land beside us. And we will not convert it off of farmland to residential. It can stay farmland. We just want to have the land. It's as simple as that. And somewhere down the road, if we sell it, or a portion or whatever, then they can convert it to residential at that time. So that's where we're at. Short little update. Yay! If you like, please like, comment, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. Anyway, enjoy your day, guys. Later, Gators.